a long way to the top. If you want to rock and roll, you want to rock and roll? Riding on the highway, going to a show. Stopping on the byway, playing rock and roll. Getting round, getting stoned, getting beat up, broken bone, getting high, getting shook. Watch all your folks, it's harder than it looks. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. It's easy to do one night stands. Try being a rock and roll band. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll.
Good evening, race fans. I'm your host, Caden Reif, and welcome back to another installment of the 2006 season of the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series. We're here from Nashville. It is the MBNA All-American Heroes 400 as we take you to race number 26 out of 36 of this season and take you to the just shy mile and a half, this D-shaped oval here in Nashville at the Super Speedway as we take you to the track for your starting lineup in tonight's race. Starting from the pole, returning from his suspension this week, it's Jimmy Johnson, the 48. That Lowe's machine is relentless, and he will start from first place in tonight's race, joined by Scott Wimmer in the 23 on the front row. Looking down the rest of the order, as Greg Biffle will start from third place, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88. He'll be in P number 4. Fifth goes to Bobby Lalonde. As Ryan Newman will start from 6th. Christian Elder in the 7th position in the 0. Jeff Gordon will be in the 8th spot. Jimmy McMurray P9, and Kurt Busch in the 10th position. 11th goes to Casey Atwood, and 12th will be Casey Kane. 13th, Matt Kenseth, and 14th is going to be Travis Kvapil. 15th goes to DJ Kennington, and Eric Norris in the 16th position. 17th, Robbie Gordon. 18th, Regan Smith. 19th will be Kyle Busch, and 20th goes to Scott Riggs in the 57 car. 21st, Ricky Rudd. 22nd, Morgan Shepherd. Ricky Hendrick will start from 23rd spot, joined by his teammate Jack Sprague in 24th in that row. Martin Truex Jr. will be 25th, and Boris Said in the 26th position. Tony Stewart P27, and Kevin Harvick in 28th. 29th goes to Carl Edwards, and 30th will be Sterling Marlin. 31st, Elliott Sadler, and 32nd position is the 77 of Todd Bodine. 33rd goes to John Andretti, and 34th place, that'll be Jeremy Mayfield. 35th, Jason Keller. Brian Vickers in 36th. Johnny Sauter will be in the 37th spot. Mark Martin in 38th. 39th goes to TJ Bell, and 40th, Jeff Green in the 96. And rounding out the field in the back, it'll be Tim Fadewa in 41st. That's the 37 car. And Ron Hornaday Jr. to round out this field in 42nd place. 42 stock cars, as always. 102 laps is your race length tonight. We take you to the racetrack for the most famous words in motorsports, the Command, here from Nashville.
Drivers, start your engines!
Field roars to life as we get set to go. Jimmy Johnson starting from pole. This championship fight just continues to shift and change. We saw the 48 car got suspended at Bristol and had to sit out at Darlington last week, race number 25. Starts from the pole this week, trying to flip the script right away. He'll be in first place to start this race. Kurt Busch second in the standings, 123 back. What a comeback it's been for him. And Robbie Gordon in the 31 car will be leading the championship standings as he has the last couple weeks. He's 123 up, as we mentioned, and starts a bit of a ways back in the field, but all these championship contenders looking to take advantage here tonight.
And for this racetrack, it's a track unlike anything in the series. It's flat, kind of like Las Vegas, but it's a little shorter, and it's made of concrete. So it's a completely different surface than anything that they have to race on other than Dover. Of course, this is not Dover. It's more like a traditional mile and a half, but certainly different, and these guys are going to have to learn to traverse it and learn to keep with the track changes as the race goes on.
Absolutely. Always a fun one here at Nashville. We're green. Great start for the 23 as we race off into turn number 1.
Like Wimmer missed his line there. Johnson gets away as the bottom line able to prevail. Johnson scampers away with the race lead as Bobby Labonte tries to go into second, pole sitter last week.
Labonte and Johnson trying to take 1-2. 48 pulls way out in front from the race lead. Great start for Christian Elder. He moved up into fourth. Wimmer not going so well after getting a good jump. Dropped to fifth. 48 is long gone in first right now. 18 is pulled into second place. Wimmer looking underneath the zero of Elder. That's for the fourth spot.
Elder trying to hold on the top lane. Looks like he's going to do just that. And we see it here quite a bit. The top lane can be used very effectively as a defense line, and usually you'll see cars start up there, start to arc down to the bottom. But if you want to try to get a move done on the bottom, you really have to make sure that you have your car there, because the top is very, very effective.
Absolutely. That's something we mention in a lot of intermediates, but it is really especially prominent at this very racetrack. Jimmy Johnson still running away with the lead at the moment, has ran better laps than Labonte to start this race and has begun to really just check out. Looking back at our other championship contenders through the field, Robbie Gordon, not too bad a start. He's just outside the top 10. Kurt Busch, less fortunate on the start of the race. He's outside the top 15, battling with his teammate Stewart. Believe that is for 18th at the moment.
And Stewart started this race in 27th, and 4 laps through, he is up battling for the top 15. So that 42 has got a lot of race pace, at least in the short term. So we've seen him be really, really good at this racetrack before. I will be interested to see if he can get some clean air on the nose, if he has something for Johnson. But we've seen him be very, very good at this racetrack in the past.
Absolutely, and with this racing facility, we see a lot of movers. That always seems to happen at this racetrack. Guys really like to move forwards, backwards, all over the place. Softly wide there. Robbie Gordon right on the bottom, trying to pick up spots. Does not like to see that 48 in the lead. Jimmy Johnson, as we mentioned, was suspended after Bristol got into an altercation with TJ Bell, resulted in him being suspended a race in Darlington, and it was a nightmare scenario for that 48 team. Kurt Busch and, of course, the 20 of Harvick, as well as Robbie Gordon, all three of those guys who are amidst with him in the top 4 in the points, all were the top 3 in that race. They all had the best cars that night, led the most laps. It was a disaster for Johnson, who sat on the pit box, and really seeming like he's eager to get started and try to cut back into that gap. He's just barely over 20 points out of the points lead going into today's race, and really trying to make up that margin with a race missing off of his calendar. So a really good start for him today, and really just trying to put himself right back into the crux of it, despite the massive setback that most considered the end of his season.
Yeah, but it's just, the fighting and digging that this 48 team does. It's Ricky Rudd with a ton of damage.
I believe this was an accident here in turns 1 and 2. Yeah, got into it with the 55. So that's
ran over everyone.
An early caution. We see the yellow flag fly for that incident. That was a 55 of Jack Sprague, who got into it with the 33 of Rudd early. Will bring this 48 right back to the rest of the field, so the caution flies. Get a look at that wreck in turn 1 as Rudd really just got ran over by the 55 there, going through turns 1 and 2.
Fortunate for Rudd, who had a really good run last week, and looking to carry that momentum this week, and really just, that wasn't even close. Just got completely ran over from the rear end, and You know, you never expect that as a driver. That must have been really, really surprising and a hard hit into the wall.
Absolutely straight into that outside retaining wall. Looking to have the safer barriers with a hard hit. Full run there as well as Sprague. It was a nasty knock. So the caution flag flies for the first time here tonight. Jimmy Johnson will lead everybody down the pit lane here. Early stops to get a check on your tires as Johnson and Labonte, your top two, down the pit lane here. Looking like really nobody stayed out. In fact, 0 car is still on the racetrack, so 48 leads everybody. Lap number 10 for your leaders as Johnson will head into his pit box here from the pole position.
And, you know, strategy has been the talk all season. And with how fantastic that 48 was off the line and through the start of that short run, I mean, you got to think if you're Robbie Gordon or Kurt Busch, as you've done all season, you got to do something different.
Saw 2 tires from a couple of teams. Tony Stewart notably took 2 tires on the stop, but they're not going to win the race off of pit road, and pretty much everybody was on 4. Only the 21 and 42 took 2 tires on that stop, so everybody's staying on target here. Winner off of pit road is the 48 of Johnson. He'll have the lead. We'll take you to a quick intermission here from Nashville. Early caution, 48 in first. Back from intermission here at Nashville as we get set to roll once again. 48 car of Jimmy Johnson, your leader here, winning off of pit road. And the top 5 will go 48, 18, 0, 23, and 17. Nice race for the 2 Roush boys, Biffle and Kenseth. Have had some momentum lately. They sit right around the edge of the top 5, but Jimmy Johnson, who positively ran away on that last start, restarts from the lead here.
But Jimmy Johnson just absolutely checked out from the field there. No, we'll see if anybody's made some adjustments to keep up with him, but they're going to need to take some big swings if they want anything at that 48.
Green flag will fly here, lap number 13. Johnson away well. Labonte potentially under fire, but it's going to be Wimmer underneath for 3rd place. Got all the way there for 2nd. Labonte tried to cut him off. Wimmer said no thank you. What a move by the 23. He goes up to 2nd in 2 corners.
Wimmer is really, really hungry right now. Hasn't had the equipment under him in some weeks, but we've seen when he has the car underneath him, he is a force to be reckoned with. We saw it at Milwaukee, for example. Could have won that race. Up here running in 2nd, qualified in 2nd. That 23, when the equipment's there, Scott Wimmer's a very, very capable driver. Someone who I believe is a very underrated driver in this garage area.
A couple of drivers, I believe, might have gotten flagged for a restart violation. No, just interesting pit stops here. 22, 97, 68, and 44. 4 cars in the pit lane here. Interesting for them, but they're going to have to come down for Some interesting reasons. Not sure. It was a lot of stop and go, so it must have been some kind of black flag. Might have been some sort of pit stop violation. Not sure, but we've got some cars on pit road. But nonetheless, none of the leaders. So Jimmy Johnson and Wimmer still going on the racetrack here. 18, 17, 30 rounds out your top 5. A great run for Atwood. We mention him so frequently. Once again, showing his face in the top 5. 6 in front of his teammate, Robbie Gordon, with a nice restart. He's moved up to 6th, doing the best damage mitigation he can. It is still no headway for Kurt Busch. He sits out right within the top 20. He's 18th at the moment.
And I would like to shine some light on Elliott Sadler again. He has started outside of the top 30, started in 31st, has now climbed into the top 10, so that 83 once again having a fantastic run.
Just another showing. We see so many drivers, and you really just see these guys who really seem to have the endurance. So many drivers that have shown up at the front of the field so frequently in the latter portion of the season. These guys have all the momentum in the world, the 83, the 30. We mention them so much. Ricky Hendrick has had some great runs. Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth, 2 drivers who have ran in the top 5 very frequently. Biffle almost won just a couple of days ago when we were at Darlington last week. So a lot of drivers who have just looked so strong. Bobby Labonte as well, another driver who's ran up front a lot recently. It's really just a story of momentum at this portion of the season. We've seen a lot of drivers who just have had the best stuff in the late portion of the year really come into their own around this portion of the year.
Yeah, and this is where you start to see guys and teams really not know what their futures look like. So around this point, this is where you have to step it up. If you're somebody who thinks that your future might be murky, you want to prove to your team and prove to the fans, prove to your sponsors that you're worth keeping around. And we've seen quite a few guys either flounder or flourish. And for some of these guys in this field, they need to step it up. Some of them doing that, some of them not so lucky.
Absolutely, and well, there's no better way to put it other than write your own future. Childress has all their cars in the top 10 as well, worth shouting them out. Martin Truex Jr., another solid run. He sits just in the 10th position, fighting with Matt Kenseth from 9th right now. And of course, the other 2 Childress boys, Atwood and Robbie Gordon, sit in the top 5, so yet another strong run for these guys. This team has really come into their own in the final portion. Down the stretch in this year, Jimmy Johnson, of course, has been good all year long and really kind of coming alive. See some tire tracks there. Might believe somebody have gotten together. Not entirely sure. Might have to look back at this. Some tire tracks there in 3 and 4. A little bit of rubber laid down. Believe somebody might have gotten turned sideways here. And that was 78 of Ron Hornaday Jr., as a matter of fact, with Jeff Green. 96 just overdrove corner entry and got right into Hornaday, and somehow those 2 both saved it. What a save from those 2 drivers.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea how they were able to hold on to that. This is not a track that you want to be sideways at, because there's no easy hits here, being so flat. But very good job for both of those guys to hold on and really not lose that much time, all things considered.
Absolutely great piece of collection from those drivers as we continue through the course of this race. Saw Bobby Labonte a couple laps ago, jumped into 2nd, but hasn't really been able to hold on to it. And Jimmy Johnson has once again just ran away. It is a dogfight for this 2nd position right now. Casey Atwood in the 30 car is going to be the first one to take advantage. He sits in front of the 18 by a nose, headed towards turn 1. A lot of these guys side by side here, fighting for their spots in the top 5.
And I mean, we've just been talking about Casey Atwood seemingly every single week recently, talking about the fact that he hasn't won yet, but the speed has been there, and it's just a matter of time at this point. He's such a good, talented driver, someone who thought his career might have not existed up to this point, but got the opportunity and has proved wholeheartedly that he's here to stay, and he's here to contend for wins and championships in the future if this kind of performance continues.
Absolutely a fantastic stretch for him. Throwing a bit of a block there on Scott Wimmer. This battle for 2nd. Just absolutely all these guys embedded away at each other. 30 back into 2nd ahead of Biffle. Wimmer moves into 3rd.
Adler's entered the top 5 now.
What a run by this 83. Got a piece under him as he moves into the top 5. Looking for more on Greg Biffle underneath the 16 there in turn number 1. Ricky Hendrick also a good run in this race. Has stuck around that 83 for quite a while. Might have something to say underneath into turn 3, and does. So these 2 going side by side. Wimmer and Atwood again side by side for 2nd. advantage 30 off of turn 4, had the run on the top. Same story
My,
for
oh
Sadler.
my, the 48 is just absolutely gone. He has locked up the store and is fully on his way home at this point. He is just absolutely checked out. Nobody within a 50-mile radius of the guy, and unbelievable so far, the speed that we've seen out of this 48.
Has such a quick race car to start these runs. That thing is bad fast, looking like Hendrick really offloaded their best equipment for him to try and get him right back into this championship fight. About a second lead between him and Atwood, I believe. It'll be around that margin. Yes, 1.4. Between the 48 and 30, first and second place. Wimmer just a little bit farther back in third. Truex has moved into fourth, taking his teammate Robbie Gordon with him in fifth. These guys are just still such a fight back here through the top 5 and 10. Biffle, Sadler, Labonte, Hendrick, Kane, McMurray, Gordon, and more all in this fight. A lot of drivers getting hungry right now, looking for positions as we approach the middle portion of this race and really get down to it. Approaching 30 laps completed. Truex slamming the door on Biffle for the 4th spot there in turn 2. And just so many fights in so little time. See Sadler and Hendrick on the top there, yes.
We start to see the outside prevailing once more as a defense lane. It started to go down to the bottom here, and in 1 and 2, we started to see guys slide up in front of each other. But in 3 and 4, the momentum has just been, too large to ignore for most of these drivers. So the outside still seems to be like the place to be, but in the areas of the racetrack, it's starting to creep towards the bottom. So look for some more guys to move around to try to find some pace to maybe try and catch this 48. But right now, I mean, he's just absolutely gone.
It's exactly what you think about with this racetrack. It's always sort of the thing. The bottom's just that little bit better in 1 and 2. It's really where you want to be making your overtakes, is on that end of the racetrack. It's not impossible to get it done in 3 and 4, but it takes a heck of a lot of speed to do it. Johnson's still leading. Atwood really closed in the last couple laps, but still trying to find some grip. Was running a little high there in 3 and 4 to try and find a lane. Couldn't quite make it work. Got Wimmer right behind him in third. As we continue to mention, Truex and his teammate Robbie Gordon fighting here. And how about Kurt Busch? Didn't mention him yet, but he just made his way into the top 10 and has really found some speed in the second half of this run. Sato1's got a bit of a long run car underneath him right now, running well at the moment, trying to pick up some positions. And really his focus, you think about the 48 leading, he is still a long way out of the championship and some 80 points behind this 01, who's only second. So Kurt Busch really would just like to get in front of the 31. You got to focus on the points leader, and he's just a couple positions up the road. Would love to get there if he can, and he's got some speed at the moment that he didn't seem to have in the earlier portion of the race.
And he didn't, and with the run starting to come towards a close, you have to start thinking long runs, because the pit stops are only going to spread this field out further. It's going to make cautions less and less likely. And it is possible that we do see pit road incidents here sometimes. It does happen. But if the pit cycles can be clean, that 01 looks to have a very, very quick race car. He could make some headway here and maybe even potentially get to Jimmy Johnson with some strategy calls. But that 01 has been so good recently. Better than anybody in the field within the past 5 to 6 weeks, if not a little more.
Absolutely. You could extend that as far as the middle portion of the season in its entirety. The middle third is where the 01 was the best. He had an average finish south of 7. We mentioned that last week when we started this final third of the season. That 01 car has just been unstoppable in the summer stretch. We've seen him win races. We saw him win 2 or 3 times in a span of 5 or 6 races over the portion of the summer in August, back there in July. That 01 car has been so fast, and he's continued it lately. Just absolutely unstoppable, and with his wins recently, it's any wonder that he's shoved himself right into the mix of this championship fight. Top 5s have come over and over and over, and Ganassi has just been so proud of him. Chip has just said, I am so happy that I signed him those years ago, and he's finally come into his own, because there is no one in this garage, I think, that better suits my team. And Kurt Busch, for him, it's nothing but confidence for that Target Dodge, and he has been so perfect in the middle portion. And it's just trying to close that little last bit of the gap to that 31 to try and really make a real challenge for this championship.
And Kurt, to mention, he was the winner of this race earlier in the season. He won the first Nashville race, and he hasn't finished outside the top 5 since Kansas when he lost to Kennington very, very late. He's won 2 straight. He almost won Pocono twice this season. He's had so much winning speed, more than anybody in the field, and he hasn't always won, but he's finding his way to victory lane more and more as the season goes on, and it's hard not to believe that he could very well close this thing up and win it.
Absolutely, without a question. And it's any wonder with Kurt Busch tied for the most wins on the season at 5 after last week at Darlington. Just 2 spots between him and the points leader. Robbie Gordon sits 3rd. Jimmy Johnson still just absolutely gone. It's a 1.7 second gap for that 48 car now. Had the 30 closing up on him a couple laps ago. Said no thank you. Really put the throttle back down, and he is way out in front. And all of these championship leaders sit top 5 in this race. Busch 5th, 3rd Gordon, and 1st Jimmy Johnson.
And for Jimmy, he's not too terribly far back, but I'm sure he would much more appreciate if his title guys were further back from him. He's really not going to gain a whole lot with those guys as close as they are, as we're starting to see pit stops here. Jimmy Johnson dives to the apron. Kurt Busch joins him.
01, 48 in, just prior to lap 40.
Which will invoke the season motto, do something different. Robbie Gordon, yet again, stays on the racetrack to do something different than his title rivals.
Just a little touch. It's any little tiny bit. Robbie Gordon also led a lap. That's important for him, so he's got an extra point in the championship. His teammate will dive down. He did as well. Missed the pit entry, and he slides way wide. Got into the grass there because he was side by side with his teammate Atwood. But that's a ton of time lost to Robbie Gordon. He will make it into the pit lane, but completely missed the entry there.
Yeah, I don't think he expected Casey Atwood to take him side by side there. I think he thought since he was his teammate, he'd maybe give him a little bit more room. But, Atwood wanted that spot because he knows how valuable track position can be at this racetrack. And as the run goes on, it's harder to get it. Robbie Gordon ran wide because of it.
Absolutely.
As Kurt did not enter, or Kurt does not exit too far gone of Jimmy Johnson. He definitely gained time there.
Goodness me, what a pit stop for that 01 car as Kurt Busch absolutely nailed it. That gap is probably halved from where he was before. He was the lowest of the 3 of these main championship contenders up to that point, and what a pit stop for him. Robbie Gordon leaving the pits as well, side by side with him, or got past him. So not too terribly bad of a pit stop for Gordon either. Works out for him at least a little bit despite the real whiff on pit entry, so maybe not too good of a stop for that 48 car who really didn't seem to get away from the pits too well, but perfect for Busch, and Robbie Gordon seems to have made up for it on the actual pit stop itself. His crew really put together a nice job there. So he will be, I believe, net P4. 3rd belonging to the 01 of Busch, and Johnson still in the lead, but not as big of a cushion as he had before.
Definitely not, and we saw the short run was where this 30 thrived before and was able to run down Jimmy Johnson. But right now, I believe the speed is in the favor of the 01. That car has looked bad fast even throughout the field, and now has moved into second place, or net second place. We'll see if he has anything for Jimmy Johnson. Nobody's had anything for him yet, but if there's anybody in this field who would, you feed the hot hand, it's going to be Kurt Busch.
Absolutely stellar run by this 01 car through the field here tonight under the lights in Nashville. He moves to 2nd past Atwood, now has his sights set on the 48 car. These 2 drivers tied for the most wins of the season, 5 apiece between these 2, both of them hungry for number 6. It's been such a dominant season for the 2 of them, and really all 3 of these guys. Robbie Gordon, of course, worth mentioning. He is the actual points leader despite the lower win count in 4th. Last spot in the top 5, Ryan Newman, a nice middle portion of this race. He moves into 5th in the 12. Wimmer sits 6th, Truex 7th, 8th, Sadler 9th, Earnhardt Jr. battling with Ricky Hendrick for this position.
Ryan Newman sitting here in 5th. He has not won this season, and he's really described his season as he's fighting with the car every week because he's so quick. Every race, it seems like, you'll see him in the top 5 at least at one portion in the race. He is maybe the best qualifier in the series, but his problem has been that he doesn't have the speed throughout the race most of the time. It just kind of shows up in spurts. So he really has to fight the handling of the race car every single week, and it has made it to where he's really just not able to contend for wins. He can have speed.
Usage
Like we
for
got
the
a car stop on the
26 there.
racetrack.
That was Jeremy Mayfield with some issues, and that is going to bring out a race-changing yellow. Saw the 26 with the tire down on the bottom there. Lucky nobody hit him. He had to stop it on the apron with how torn apart that thing was, so caution comes out. And that was right when the 01 of Kurt Busch got to Jimmy Johnson. He's going to be wishing he had one more lap before that yellow came out. So 68, Johnny Sauter will be your free pass.
Now, good to note that 01 has the speed. We haven't seen anybody be able to challenge the 48 yet, but Kurt got there, was able to put some pressure on him, was probably about to take that spot. So, looks like
Oh,
there's some
goodness,
speed.
Robbie Gordon
Robbie's
spinning into
around.
the pits.
Looked like that was help from the 49 and TJ Bell.
Yeah, Robbie wanted to pit, was side by side with the 49, who I don't believe had gotten up to the right spot under caution yet. Goodness me, what in the world is happening here tonight? So the 49 spins out the 31. Gordon didn't quite get all the way back to his position. He's got to be irate over the radio.
Robbie's never been somebody to take kindly to something like that. He's a bit of a hothead. So we'll see if anything comes of that.
Jimmy Johnson, race leader in. Robbie Gordon took fuel only. Tires will be going on to the 48 car, as they did on the 01. Fuel only for Wimmer as well, so 2 tires only for the 48, who gets beat out by the 01 car. Stayed in front of the 31, but Scott Wimmer's your winner off of pit road here. Bit of a field shakeup. Robbie Gordon. Again, you just can't stop saying it, can you? Do something different, and he did once again. Didn't quite beat the 48 off of pit road there, but got just that little bit closer.
Oh, it feels redundant to keep saying it, but you have to keep bringing it up when they do it, and it's every pit stop. They continue to flip the script, and whether it works or not, they're willing to continue doing it, and they execute it better than anybody in the field, so I don't see why not.
So Casey Atwood in the 30 stays out. He'll be your race leader, Scott Wimmer, the winner off of pit road. We'll be right back here from Nashville. 30 car in first. Back from intermission, we get set to roll here. It'll be lap number 52 on the start. Casey Atwood, leader of the drivers who stays out. He'll be in first place. Second will be his teammate Truex. Third, Ricky Hendrick. Fourth, Elliott Sadler and DJ Kennington in the top 5. In fifth, winner off the pit road was Scott Wimmer. He sits back in the 15th spot. Got the 2 championship guys right behind. That's Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson, 16th and 17th. All of these drivers on 2. No tires for the 23 of Wimmer, and no tires for Robbie Gordon, notably, as we keep mentioning, always just not conforming to the same strategy, refuses to do the same strategy as a 48. But into the restart box, we are green. Atwood and Truex away as we race towards turn 1 again.
Elliott Sadler looked for a move for second place. Door was shut on him, so we'll see if he can hold it down here on the bottom. Ricky Hendrick having a nice run today.
Biffle trying to take it 3 wide and does on the bottom.
Biffle does. Ooh, very nearly contact with Sadler and Ricky Hendrick there.
Still 3 wide.
Careful, boys.
Biffle found a way to make it 2 wide on the bottom as Hendrick backed out all the way on the outside. He got all of them. 16 moves into third. Meanwhile, checking back on the championship leaders. Great start for the 31, 48, and 01. Stuck up on the outside. 3 wide there. Eric Norris got shoved into the middle lane. Johnson and Busch really just trying to find a way to the bottom. It is not a good start for either of these guys.
No, it is not. But with the tires, you would think that eventually it will equal itself out and they'll start to fly through. But, I mean, you can't spend too much time here in traffic. It can be hard to make passes. So if you've been, I mean, you got to think you got to go now.
Goodness me, Kenseth went all the way across the nose of the 48 of Johnson there. Now trying to get underneath Robbie Gordon. Really, just on the back foot is Kurt Busch. You do not want to be on the back foot with the 2 that he's been contending with for this championship. And he is really just struggling. Has not found a way to the bottom yet. Would love to be down there. Kenseth got past Gordon. These 2, 31 and 48, right next to each other. 17th and 18th. So many battles throughout the field. Everybody all over the place right now, trying to find their way through, trying to find their position after such a shakeup. But these 2 Childress guys, Atwood and Truex, have positively checked out up front. They're a long way gone from first and second, especially Atwood, who is way in front of the 8, who's even further in front of the 16. Couple of Fords in the back end of the top 5 as 16, 38, 88. Couple of Yates teammates side by side for the 4th spot. That's Kane and Junior fighting for this position. Just past the halfway mark in this race as well. Neglected to mention that. It's right as we went green there, lap number 52. Just a lot going on in this one right now.
As much as we talk about Casey Atwood, Martin Truex Jr. has been very, very good recently as well. Very well could have won Pocono, made a great save. He's had quite a few races where the speed has been there. Maybe the results haven't quite shown it, but those rookie stripes on the back of the car are merely for show. He drives like a veteran out here, and he has the respect of so many people in the garage area. He is truly one of the cleanest drivers, and you rarely hear of him getting into any incidents with anybody else. He's kept the nose clean, and the results are starting to show. Great job by Martin Truex Jr. yet again.
Absolutely. You talk about last week where that car spent pretty much the entire race in the top 10. He ended up running out of fuel. One of just, I believe, 2 drivers who ran out of gas at the end of it and had to come in for an extra pit stop. And he finished sub-30th. For Truex, it was a total heartbreak. The kid was so brokenhearted. You hate to see that out of the 18. He's been so good this year. It's just been a lot of bad luck. That 8 car has ran up front so frequently. We've seen him in the top 5, in the top 10, top 15, wherever it is. Competitive has been what that 8 car has been this year. They've been scrappy. That's what you want out of such a young driver like Truex, and he's performed so well, and even through heartbreak. You see a lot of maybe Casey Kane in that driver where he just shows up week in, week out, despite how many times things go wrong, despite running so well, you don't end up with the results you want, but he comes back next week even stronger, and today, right with his teammate for what could be this win. So it is just a huge joy to see that 8 car running so well, and to see Truex still competing after how much he's been through this year. It's nothing short of impressive from this rookie.
To see a rookie with that kind of mentality and mindset, because when you're a young driver, it's very, very hard to know and understand the nuances of the sport and how difficult it can be to get your mojo back after a situation like that. But for him to just keep clawing and keep digging and leave that in the rearview mirror, that's a mentality that a lot of veterans don't have. So as soon as the speed gets there week in and week out to where he can start getting the results and start winning races, he is going to be very, very dangerous.
Childress has really just built such an impressive garage, if you ask me, and it is any surprise that they sit first and second right now. Casey Kane just moved into third, past the 16 and Greg Biffle for fourth. Fifth place belongs to Sadler. Meanwhile, looking back at our championship leaders, it's been a great run for this 48, who's really started to pick up spots again. One of the faster cars on the racetrack. Also a shout out to Todd Bodine with a nice run in that 77 car, right outside the top 10 right now, as he is side by side with Johnson, who continues to just chip and pick away. Robbie Gordon hasn't really been able to go anywhere, obviously not on any tires, and Kurt Busch really just on the back foot. We mentioned he fell all the way back to around 30th there on that run, and it doesn't matter how much speed you have, falling that far back and struggling that hard to get onto the advantageous line, it's going to cost you, and he is some 10 positions behind the driver that he was just about a lap from passing for the lead before that yellow came out.
I mean, you hate to see it for
Goodness,
Kurt.
got
Oh,
into
boy.
the 57 of Riggs. Somehow these two held on to it. Goodness me.
Very nearly disastrous as you start to see Kurt get frustrated. Hand out the window there. And Kurt's starting to get frustrated back here. I mean, you start to see your title rival disappear out of the front windshield when you know that you're just as fast, if not faster. That's got to be tough to swallow.
Absolutely, and he does have some race left to get back into it, but these laps are disappearing, and we've got less than 40 to go in this one now. Looking up front, Johnson has moved all the way into 8th. Those tires working beauties for him right now. Still a lot of this thing left to go, and he's got quite some racetrack left to get up towards where Casey Atwood sits in the race lead. That race car has been bad fast right now, and just looking for a chance to get back up front. Atwood still comfortably in the lead. We haven't seen a lot of racing for the lead in this one. It's too many just ridiculously fast race cars, and Atwood definitely the fastest of the drivers who stayed out, although Casey Kane has also really moved upwards and is closing on the 8 car for second. Greg Biffle slipped backwards just a little bit. He fell to 5th. Elliott Sadler moved up and is continuing to follow this 38. Could be seeing a battle for the lead brew here soon. That Yahoo Ford is very, very fast at the moment.
It is, and for Casey Kane, it has been a bit of a disappointing season for him. He's not ran well. He's not ran bad. He's gotten a couple wins, but the consistency that he had in his rookie season has not followed over to this season, and he's had altercations with the entirety of Roush, really. So it's been difficult for him mentally, knowing how good of a driver he is and just not being able to show it, because half the time he's behind the wall. So Casey has been racing with a bit of a chip on his shoulder recently, and something that we don't really see out of Casey. He's a very mild-mannered, ill-tempered guy, and we don't usually see this out. We don't usually see this side of him, but Casey Kane racing angry. We're seeing it this week. Bad fast race car.
Absolutely, and it's any testament to the skill of this young man in just his second full-time season that a 6th place standings position is a disappointment. It's been an amazing, amazing career for him so far. He's such a talented kid. Love to see him run up front, and today, once again, has some speed. Might have a chance to get another win under his belt here tonight. He's got to catch that 30 car Casey Atwood, but he's looked bad fast on this run. Approaching 30 laps to go, expecting one more pit stop in this one. Should be just the last pit stop as we approach that window. Not too terribly long for now. Truex starting to fall backwards a little bit, running out of some speed at the moment. Got passed by Biffle. Under fire from Sadler and Earnhardt Jr. Jimmy Johnson has yet to find a way around McMurray, the 40 car, for 7th. And this is a tight battle right now up front for who can get first dibs at this lead and what is surely turning into the battle for the win.
Childress, we spoke to him before this race, and he said that he believes that this is the deepest driver lineup and team lineup that they have ever had. You know, they had those years with Dale Earnhardt, but it was really only the 3 car that was up there winning races. This team has 3 or 4 capable race cars and capable drivers of winning races and potentially winning championships in the future. So future has never been brighter at RCR. Richard is very, very excited for the future and excited to see what they can do this season as Casey pulls into the pits.
And we see it now. This final pit cycle begins, just coming to 30 laps to go. It should be enough to make the end of the race, but we will see exactly how long it goes as Atwood heads in from the lead. Casey Kane inherits first for the moment, should be coming in a lap or two here. Jimmy Johnson and all the guys who pit in on the last cautions should stay out a little while. Kurt Busch has picked up some headway, really drove angry at the back end of this run. He's in front of Robbie Gordon now. So Kurt Busch has found some speed, trying to pick up some positions as the rest of these guys who did not pit under that last caution come in. Jimmy Johnson back to the lead.
For Kurt Busch, this is where you wonder. There isn't a ton of race left. There's enough to make it to the end. Do you potentially take 2 tires? Because you're so far back from Jimmy Johnson that you're not going to beat him at this point. With the way his cars came in very late into runs, do you think about maybe taking 2 tires, getting the track position, and holding him off, knowing that you might be faster than that 48? We'll see, but it's definitely worth thinking about.
Personally, though, if you ask me, given that 01 car and really the point in the season that we're at, it's difficult to make those risks. And if you ask me, you don't want to take them. Because if that move goes wrong, you end up falling 10, 15 positions back. It turns into a disaster. It's really about damage mitigation. That's something that people don't really think about. You think about going for wins for a lot of the season. You think about just trying to make some headway, make something happen. Excuse me. But when you're a driver that's in this championship hunt, you got to think about minimalizing the floor. Bring that floor up, because if you're finishing poorly, that's how you bleed out of a championship. We saw it last year with so many different drivers. Really, the entire rest of the field that wasn't named Tony Stewart, they all shot themselves in the foot going for the best results they could. And that 20 car, who just continued to rattle off wins, just walked away with the championship. You really just have to think about your whole season up to this point. It all culminates in this. And when you get to a point like this in the season, we saw it happen with Casey Kane last year. He tried so hard to be the better driver, and it ended up backfiring so hard that it took him completely out of a championship. Some saw him as the favorite to win. So without a question, I think you got to think about the bigger picture here, as Jimmy Johnson will come into the pits here right around that 25 to go mark. Kurt Busch will stay out. And now it is the money stop.
I agree. I do think if you're the 01, you got to just try to conform here. You know you have the speed in the race car. Maybe you think about it, but Chip Ganassi is a history student. He understands more than anybody how strategies in racing come to be. He was an IndyCar driver for a long time in a place where strategy was more important than being on the racetrack in some points. So I think if you're Chip Ganassi, you understand that you have to just do what you can here. You can't try and do something crazy.
Tough break for Newman here, by the way, who came into the pits with a tire absolutely torn apart. That is the right rear tire really destroyed on that machine. Lucky he just came down pit road. The racetrack stays green because of it, but that carcass almost came off. So the 12, really a lucky break. In fact, he might get away with this entirely, just get away at the end of the pit stop, and he will. So Newman, really good timing. That tire flew apart there, and he still leaves the pits in front of the 01. Lucky break for him, and lucky break for everybody who was in the pits, because that could have resulted in a caution flag, but he managed to get it in there.
Newman has not had a lot of lucky breaks this season, and that might have been the first one he's got all year. He might get in front of the 48, not quite, but I don't know if that could have gone any better for Ryan Newman.
Absolutely. Really, really lucked out there, and the whole field did, as a matter of fact. So with that pit stop completed, Jimmy Johnson out in front of the 01 by a ways, but Kurt Busch not too terribly far behind. He's battling with the 22 right now, coming up on 20 to go, not too long from now. A lot of drivers who were on that short pit strategy now way out in front. I don't believe any of these championship leaders are really going to get up there for the race win. but they'll definitely be able to fight amongst themselves.
And now is that point in the race where if you're Casey Atwood, you start to think about it. That it very well could happen today. He's got the track position, he's got the gap. If the speed in the race car is there, could it finally be the day for Casey Atwood? He's came so close this season as Casey Kane is starting to close in, but Casey Atwood right now still a fairly comfortable gap.
Absolutely, and just trying to hold on to it, but Casey Kane is looking bad fast in the latter portion of this race. 20 laps to go at the line for your two race leaders. A couple of drivers still not out of this fight yet from 3rd through 5th. That's Sadler, Harvick, and Truex. That 20 car has come alive late. He moves into 4th place. If anything, really benefits Harvick. He's not too far out of the championship. It's 391. That's a couple of races, but you're still at the point of the season where you can recover it, and with where the 31, 48, 01 are running, this is exactly where you want to be.
It is, and you have to take advantage of the opportunity now. You see the lead in front of you, and if you have the car to do it, go up and take it, because you don't get many opportunities like this season. We've seen these guys be so perfect, about as perfect as you can possibly get. So, if you're Kevin Harvick, you have to take advantage right now. We saw it at Pocono. He was willing to do whatever it took to win. So a bonsai move up the inside happened to work for him. So, if Kevin Harvick has the confidence underneath him, look for him to make some very desperate moves.
Absolutely. Johnson and Robbie Gordon separated by just a position. Further back is Kurt Busch in 19th. He's just 4 positions behind that 31 car as these guys are in a big mix. Here in the back end of the top 15, it's Johnson and Stewart fighting for the 12th position right now. Johnson gets out in front of him. Big crossover coming here from Stewart. And he did manage to get back underneath. Going to try the bottom in 3 and 4. These two still fighting. Robbie Gordon with Newman for position back there. Meanwhile, up front, Atwood still holding on. Elliott Sadler's really come alive late in this show. Might have a chance for second, couldn't quite get there that time. These three have pulled away just a little bit. Harvick has dropped off, and Truex dropped off further. So it might just be a 3-horse race for the win here as we continue to wind away the laps.
But as much as we talk about Casey Atwood and Elliott Sadler, you'd think they'd won already. And they haven't won yet, but it very well, there's a chance it could come down to those two who came so close at points in this season. The 83 just starting to get more and more winning speed every single week, and they have completely blown their expectations out of the water. So Elliott Sadler, somebody who, yet again, having another strong run where people didn't quite expect him to be a race win contender, but here he is late in the going with a very real shot to win this race.
And remind me, Nate, when was it that 30 car debuted, Casey Atwood? Was that 2001?
I believe it was.
And still not a single career win to his name. Saw some dust and debris back there on the outside in 1 and 2. Going to get a look back at this. Believe another person might have gotten drop kicked into the wall here. That'd be the 01 of Kurt Busch, who appears to have just overdriven and gotten into the side of the 21 of John Andretti. So Busch falls backwards to 23rd. Disaster.
And definitely some visible damage there for the 01. So really just not a whole lot has gone his way today, and he has had such a good run recently, not finishing outside of the top 5 since Kansas. Looks like that streak will come to an end today, barring a crazy final few laps to this race. But unfortunate ending for Kurt Busch.
Would once again like to shout out Todd Bodine. Mentioned him a couple times. Daytona winner earlier in the season. He is sitting in the 11th position right now. A really good run for him. Always worth shouting out some of these guys with outstanding runs. Meanwhile, battle for the lead. Casey Kane led the last lap. Casey Atwood is the one back on his inside this time by while we were checking up on the 01, and Atwood holds on to first. Kane with a huge run trying to make the crossover out of turn 2. Going to the outside this time. Atwood blocks him.
Yeah, Atwood read him like a book there. You could tell Kane wanted to go to the inside, so he blocked the bottom, forced Kane to go to the outside, and then blocked him again. So Casey Atwood, just really good defensive driving there. We haven't seen that a whole lot today.
Absolutely stellar, and he chopped the nose off of that 38 to hold on to first. You can tell just how hungry all three of these guys are to win this race, and especially that 30 car. This time by here at Nashville tonight, it'll be 10 laps to go. Atwood, Kane, and Sadler. Harvick not out of it in fourth. It is the battle of the ages for this win here late. One winless driver, one who had been hungry prior to this year, already has a win, looking for another after a rough stretch. Sadler looking to try and take his first win since 2001.
That win was all the way back with the Wood brothers at Bristol. So you think that's a very long time ago from here. Elliott Sadler maybe not even would remember how to get to victory lane. So for him, it's basically like he's driving for another win, driving for his first again. So for Elliott, it has to be so frustrating to know that you have won before, but haven't been able to do it in so long. It's basically like you're driving for your first win again.
Kane underneath down towards turn number 3, side by side between the 30 and 38. And Kane's got the move made. Sadler moves to second. Atwood back down to third place.
You could just see it coming. Casey Kane was working him over, and finally is able to get the move done. That 38 has had the speed, but I'll tell you what, Elliott Sadler has the speed to match him. These three very equally matched. It could be anybody's game here.
Sadler trying to close back up to Kane, running high here in 3 and 4, trying to find some extra grip on the outside. Didn't seem like it worked too well for him. Kane runs away a little bit. Just that tiny little gap. That's what you need. Kane looking for what would be, I believe, his third win of this season. Side by side for second. What a move by Atwood. Moves back to P2.
And that really cost.
And Jimmy Johnson has a tire going down.
He does, and he's on the apron. Is he going to make it to the pits? I don't think he will.
Racetrack stays green for the moment, didn't impede anybody, looking like it's intact enough. Johnson will make it back to the pits. Disaster for the 48 car, and he is going to have to make a late stop that will tear his race apart.
Absolute disaster and agony for the 48 team for the second week in a row. Robbie Gordon's going to be the one to really benefit from this, with Kurt Busch having the problems he did. Kevin Harvick going to be helped out very much by this as well.
See Busch trying to get past Mark Martin. That's for the 18th position. Right now, Robbie Gordon has cruised back into the top 10. He sits P10 right now. But right now, all that matters is the battle for this win between a couple of Caseys. Kane and Atwood inside the final 5 laps, fighting for the win here.
The Casey and Casey show is brewing, as Atwood did not get a good run out of 4 that time. Kane absolutely launched away. I don't know if Atwood's going to be able to get back to him.
4 laps to go in this one as Atwood trying to get back to the lead. Kane out front, running away with it. Harvick is trying to move into the 3rd spot past Sadler. Lap car of Jimmy Johnson in the way of Casey Kane.
And he's going to block him. Atwood closes that gap, puts it in half, and Johnson continuing the block.
Kane trying to find a way around the 48, would love to get past. 0 cars blowing up. That's Christian Elder, no smoke, made it back to the pits.
I don't think NASCAR's going to like this one too much. They just suspended him, as Jimmy's going to get out of the way here.
Kane gets underneath. Would like to check up on the 78, who had a very long pit stop and in fact retired from the race. Just issues for him, looking like it's no incident. But meanwhile, for the lead inside the final couple laps, Kane got past the 48, coming to the white flag this time.
Yeah, and I don't think Atwood can get back to him at this point without a major mistake from Casey Kane. 38, clean and green to the checkered flag.
Through 1 and 2 and headed now down to the backstretch for the final time. Jimmy Johnson in the 48 is going to finish 37th. Robbie Gordon is going to run away even further in this championship, but right now it's for the win. It's a story of tragedy and triumph here tonight in Nashville, and Casey Kane takes home his 3rd win of the season. What a victory for him here tonight, and Atwood heartbroken again.
Casey Atwood, I don't think he knows what he can do differently at this point. I mean, he's came so close so many times. Yet another heartbreaker. Looked like Kevin Harvick might have gotten 3rd there.
Believe he did finish in front of the 83 of Sadler. Robbie Gordon 11th, just outside the top 10. Kurt Busch did all he could. He got to 18th with the damage on the right side of that race car. And Jimmy Johnson, 36th place is his final finishing position. Just a disaster for the 48 team that surely now, that might be it. You think about the suspension maybe of being it, but he was so fast today, but that very well could be the final bell for that 48 car.
It could be. There is enough time to recover, but he's really going to have a crazy run here. I don't think it's probable at this point for him. He's going to have some help, and that was a really, really unfortunate end for his race. What a fast race car he had, and just the worst possible timing. If that could have happened earlier in the race, he could have recovered from that, but at that point in the race, it was just, that was lights out.
So Casey Kane collects his 3rd win both of the season and of his career as he triumphs over the 30 of Casey Atwood to collect that number 3 win here tonight. Next week, we had a race number 27, 10 races left in the season. And next week, it will be from Richmond for race number 27 of the year. On behalf of Nate, with me in the booth here tonight, I'm Caden Reif, your host. Thanks for joining us here tonight, and we'll catch you next time. And as always, have yourself a good one.